What is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman. I'm here with Football with Oz Austin for episode 34 of Against the Blitz. And we are starting to do full team reviews for this offseason. Not just looking back on last year, but we're going to look at the changes they made throughout the offseason so far, since most of those are shored up, and then kind of projecting things out for the 2025 NFL season. So we plan to do this for almost as many teams as we possibly can, before we kind of run out of time. As far from the season as we feel like we are, there's still only so much time, and there are a lot of teams. There's still a lot of things that we'll talk about outside of this kind of thing too, but we'll try to get to everybody. But we're starting with the Cincinnati Bengals today. So
the people's team, the Cincinnati Bengals. You're repping the orange, I'm repping my team, but it's kind of broken down by position. So we'll look at each position, look at the moves they made, look at who departed, and say, did they improve? Did they get worse? Is there potential there? Is there regression there? And we'll kind of give, like, we don't really have a grade necessarily, but we'll kind of give our thoughts on how they tackled each position of need, how they tackled each position they were already good at, and kind of just give, like, our ultimate thoughts on, did they improve at the end of the off season? Are they the same, or did they get worse at the end of the off season? So it's really cool, but it's going to start off with quarterback, really. Joe Burrow. It's the only name I have for you. That's the only name that matters. It's his first healthy offseason he's ever had since his rookie season. So I think there is a chance that we actually finally do see, like, peak Burrow this year.
You wouldn't consider last year peak Burrow? Not peak Burrow, but you think there's still, how much more left do you think he has to tap into, I guess is my question.
I think there's a good bit. I mean, he came into last year with like a destroyed ligament in his throwing hand. So you could clearly see, like, the first few weeks, there was he didn't have any zip. Like, he was really struggling the first few weeks because his hand was made of mush. And he was just doing what he could. And most of his best games came in the middle and later on. So a full healthy offseason where he gets to mesh with his guys, get throws in, in August and September. Like, I feel really good about it. Like, and he threw for 4,900 yards. So if there's more to that, a healthier version of that, it's pretty scary.
That's kind of what I asked. So I have a question for every positional group that I'm going to throw out there, and that kind of ties into it. I said, will Joe Burrow have to replicate the season he had for the Bengals to compete again in 2025?
I'd probably say so, yeah, but I just don't see why he couldn't. I mean, I don't think, like, not to spoil the rest of it, but I don't think they lost enough to really think that he would have a worse season for some reason.
Yeah.
Especially now that he's finally healthy. Knock on wood. Like, please. Please.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't think people truly appreciated how great of a season Joe Burrow had last year. Like, you can look at the box score and his finalized numbers on the season and get a good idea, but that still doesn't account for how much he carries that offense. Like, there is no other quarterback that I could think of off the top of my head that is doing as much as he has to do on an every down basis. Like, the offense is him. It lives and dies by the decision he makes play by play and the throw that he has to execute play by play. So the fact that he threw for almost 5,000 yards, 43 touchdowns, he had the fourth highest completion percentage on top of it while having the most dropbacks and attempts. Like, just looking at these numbers again is just crazy. And going back to the point of how much he has to do himself, like, the Bengals rank almost dead last in play action rates. They don't come out under center very often. It quite literally is just Joe Burrow, pure drop back, make the right decision and make the throw. And as straightforward as that sounds, it's a lot harder, especially compared to, like, the Purdy's, the Goffs, even Josh to an extent. Like, so many of these guys that play in a much more structured offense, it's just Burrow is the offense here.
Yes. Yeah. And, like, I think the Bengals are the only team that gets pissed if they run it on, like, 3rd and 1. Like, every single Bengals fan wants us to lose or win with the ball in Burrow's hands. And they actually lost a few games because they decided not to do that. And they tried to run the ball. They tried to kick the ball too far. Like, they tried to get cute. Anytime where, like, it came down to Burrow having to win the game, look at the Broncos game, you look at games like that, like, he ices them, and it's awesome. So I do think he's also like what 27, 28. Like that's still not necessarily prime for a quarterback. A lot of them hit that 32, 33. Even like Geno Smith, he just hit his prime at like 34. So I think there's still plenty of room to go.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, Burrow's the perfect type of quarterback to play until he's 40. Like he's that archetype. So yeah, I just don't think he really gets enough credit for the season he had. It just does slightly worry me because of how good of a season we saw from him. The team still struggled overall, and even like only 9 interceptions is ridiculous. Like that's for as many attempts as he had.
Yeah.
Like it's also turnover luck to an extent too. Like even some of the interceptions he did throw were going off of the hands of T. Higgins, or there was one that went off of I think it was a tight end. There was one he threw to Jamar. He just got like pressed into the ground by Marlon Humphrey, and I don't think he expected that. I wouldn't have blamed him for it when I was going and watching some of them back. But like, can you expect that type of turnover luck? I don't know. I just realizing the type of season he had, and for them to still miss, like it goes deeper than just 5,000 yards and 43 touchdowns. It just is. It's crazy, but appreciate Burrow.
Yes, please, but no one would like. I mean, some people will, but a lot of people. God, the Herbert argument. Herbert's not doing that, by the way. No, Herbert still needs a lot from his team to get to the playoffs. Like he needed an elite defense to get there, and Burrow just needs a slightly below average defense to get to the playoffs, or a functioning kicker, and we're in. That's all we needed.
Yeah, I think. I think, like, stylistically speaking, you can make the argument that Herbert is the more preferred quarterback, but I think, I mean, even the playoff game from Herbert is a good example. As much as some of what happened might not have been his fault, there was still a lot of pressure in that moment. He really hasn't been in that moment very often, and it's hard to say he didn't crumble. Whereas Burrow on a week-to-week basis is, being pressed down with all of this pressure because he's the team. So it's like, and he handles it pretty damn well. So I would say, I think that's a factor too.
There's a good reason why Summer Rae is hanging out with Joe Burrow on the bus and not Herbert. Okay, like he's cold, he is icy, he is Joey B, best quarterback in the NFL. That's all it is.
All right, bad Bengals fan. All right. Well, the next positional group I wanted to jump in and kind of piggyback off of is I guess I can go 2 different ways. We'll go to the receivers, I guess, just to kind of get that out of the way too. Nothing really changed. Nothing did change in this room. So it's the same, the same group. They're running it back. Yeah. They managed to get Jamar and Higgins under contract. But the big name in this room is Jermaine Burton. Mm-hmm. What do you think? Do you think they finally are going to get his head on straight this offseason?
So far, he has been. So far, it sounded like he's like attached himself to Burrow, and like a little puppy. Like he will not leave Burrow's side, and he has looked by far the 3rd best receiver from everything I've watched. Like I know people love Andre Yoshibas a lot, but Jermaine Burton is a much more talented player. It's just whether or not they let him on the field because he knows the playbook or not. There's no doubt that he is like clearly the 3rd best receiver on the team. He just needs to keep doing what he's doing right now. And that's staying away from the casino, like having someone drive him places. Keep your hands to yourself, inside voices, and just play football. Learn your playbook. Eat well. He's a great talent. Like just hone it in. Yeah, and we got to. The receiving core is better if he starts over Yoshi, unfortunately, because I love Yoshi, but Burton's just so much better.
Yeah, Jermaine Burton is like the perfect fit for this offense. Like that vertical threat that can win one-on-one. He even had a couple reps last year where it's like there were flashes, and it's like, man, it sucks that this isn't out there every single week. And it's like, I think Jamar at times was pushed into the slot by choice. Or I mean, not by choice. I think he was pushed into the slot because they had to put him there because they were struggling to get him the ball. Whereas if you have 2 one-on-one beaters on the sidelines in Higgins and Burton, like, and then you have Chase in the slot by choice, I mean, those are 3 unguardable weapons one-on-one. And it just is the ceiling that you could maybe not even see because it's limitless with those type of weapons with Joe Burrow, and that style of offense would be deadly. So I am rooting for that just as a pure football fan for how much fun that would be.
Yes, like I love Yoshi. He's good in the red zone, but dude, he can't get open. Like he doesn't know how. And he was never supposed to. He was supposed to be like Christian Watson light. That's all he was ever supposed to be, but they've turned him into like their wide receiver 3 full-time starter, and like that just can't be.
Yeah.
He should just be a red zone guy, but Jermaine Burton needs to be the starter. 3rd round pick for a reason. And they knew about his red flags, but they're just like, if we could just hone it in, we have a really good receiver here. He just needs to calm down. But it seems like he has so far.
Yeah, I mean they're putting their eggs in his basket again because there were no moves, no additions, no nothing in this room. So they are saying we are committing to you, Jermaine. Now you commit to us. So
yeah, they're like Chuck Sizzle's healthy again. We got Charlie Jones back. Hopefully, can also contribute in some way, just as a backup slot. But it has to be Burton. That's the 3.
Yeah, for sure. Running backs. I have some thoughts on this. I wanna hear. So they brought back Samaje Perine.
Yep.
But the name that everyone's kind of on the lookout over in Cincy land. Do you guys have a name? The jungle, whatever.
The jungle is kind of like what you would call that, yeah.
Over in the jungle is Taj Brooks.
Who
was your player comp for Taj Brooks if you had one?
Samaje Perine. I have it written down. Yes, I documented this a while ago. Like the Bengals Samaje Perine were like, it's crazy consistent, really good in like every aspect of the game. Just never probably going to be like elite, but definitely could hold his own as a starter if needed. That's kind of what Perine was for a little while. So to get someone like that, I think that's pretty big, especially moving on from like Travion Williams and Chris Evans, who were only like special teams bodies for like the last 4 years. I mean, they had Khalil Herbert for like a weekend, so I wouldn't call that losing too much. It was just like getting Taj Brooks brings an element of like power and consistency to this run game that they haven't had in a while. So I think they absolutely upgraded in that aspect.
Yeah, I have them as improved in this spot as well. I didn't realize how long Travion Williams had been with Cincinnati. That guy
he's like one of our like longest tenured players.
I saw it's like for 5 years or something like that. I'm
yeah.
Like, holy shit. I feel like every year I saw his name on the depth chart and I'm like, oh, he's a 2nd-year guy. But
they like never let him play. They never allowed him. He was a kick returner. He played on special teams, but I think he had 1 game with like more than 5 carries in his career. They never let him touch the ball.
Oh my god.
Chris Evans even worse.
Yeah, I know. Chris Evans is just a complete afterthought, poor guy. But
he was just hurt all the time. Yeah. But yeah, Samaje Perine gets, and we got Zach Moss back from injury also, who got injured in week 9. So the last few weeks of the season were without him, and the offense looked a little better. So I don't really know what to make of that. I feel like that just means Chase Brown is the starter, and don't even touch that. But Moss, Taj Brooks, and Perine make up a really good like RB2 through 4.
Yeah, I'm interested to see whose workload Taj Brooks ends up eating into more, whether it is Zach Moss is like that change of pace, or will it be Samaje Perine? Because as far as I know, Taj Brooks is very good in pass protection too, and he's good in that role. So I think he can easily. I think he has more of a shot to end up cutting into Perine's role, as your comparison might suggest, than into Moss's. But something that I was touching on with the Burrow conversation is just how much they come out under center, how much they have, how much they run play action, and like, is this something that they should start to trend toward? Just because you have to relieve your quarterback a little bit, and Chase Brown under center, like his under center carries, like the numbers that I found, he ranked like, where is it? 36th among qualified rushers and like EPA per rush, and only averaged 3.6 yards per carry from his carries under center. He's just not that type of back either to run between the tackles. So it's like, you don't want to get away from what you're good at, but at the same time, we saw the style that the teams that were getting up to the top were playing, and it was a lot less of a load on their quarterback. So do you look for a runner that you feel more confident can get between the tackles from an under center run? And maybe that's where Taj Brooks comes in. So
yeah,
It's hard
I'd
to say.
probably prefer Brooks as my RB2. Like just the upside, like has a little bit more juice. He runs harder. He's a little bigger than Zach Moss. So to bring him in and be the RB2, get the short yardage, live between the tackles, like he couldn't be more opposite of Chase Brown. And that's why I love the pick. So I do think that he's more your under center, pound the ball, volume guy. And Chase Brown can kind of be what he was last year, get 15 carries a game, all outside zone runs, be a receiver. And that works well. Like he almost had 1,000 yards and he didn't start till week 9. So
Yeah.
he definitely had some flashes that I'm like really excited about.
Yeah, I love Chase Brown. I think he's very good. I think he's actually a perfect fit for this offense. It's just when will this when this offense does maybe start to try and evolve a little bit. I don't know if he is the right back for that. So I think he is more fit for a committee type of backfield, which is why I do hope Brooks does make some sort of impact because they need it. I mean, they need somebody to be that bruiser inside that could potentially pick up that 3rd and 1 instead of forcing a screen to Jamar or something quick. Like, yeah, they need that.
It's usually a go route on 3rd and 1.
Yes,
usually like it hits half the time. And it's sweet when it does.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's infuriating not to be able to pick up like 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 2s on the ground. Like you have to just throw it to T every time.
Yeah,
right. it is annoying.
Yeah, and that's not even all the running back's fault, but Chase Brown, I think, definitely has something to do with it because he's not a burly guy.
Right. So I'll get to whose fault it was in a second. Yeah.
Yeah, the offensive line. Oh boy. This is well, do you have tackle and guard or tackle and inside?
I separated tackle and interior because there's a few guys that kind of played both center and guard. So I kind of just lumped them all together.
Okay.
But the tackles, nothing really crazy. It was more the guards that got all the focus in the offseason.
Yeah, the tackles, I mean, nothing really changed. Amarius Mims and Orlando Brown will be your starting tackles. And the only intriguing guy that they added was Jalen Rivers. And I almost feel like that might be a more fitting conversation for the guards because maybe that's where he might end up. But I had a question for no, I guess that is a Jalen. I guess it could be for the just go. I mean, there's really nothing else to talk about for the tackles. They stay stagnant. We'll talk about the guards.
Trent Brown played 2 games and then died. They lose Deontay Smith and they get him back in Jalen Rivers, who is just like their next swing tackle, guard, possibly. We don't know yet, but yeah, it's all guard.
Right. And that's where this conversation gets spicy. I mean, you can't possibly. Well, I'll start with this question. Will either guard listed as the starter be the starting guard by week 1?
And would that be Volson and Cody Ford?
Yes.
I think Ford has a chance to, just because of how solid he was down the stretch last year. But Volson, I don't see a way.
No,
I don't see a way. Cody Ford, at least every once in a while, will be dominant for a game. And you're like, how? How did he do that? But Cordell Volson legit gets bullied in both aspects of the game, all game long. And from my understanding, from everything I've watched, Dylan Fairchild has been running with the ones in practice. So I think that we absolutely see it, at least a new left guard. But there were a few underrated names that they did bring in, including Jalen Rivers, that could compete. One of them being Lucas Patrick, who played with he played terrible with the Bears, a few years ago, but came into New Orleans last year and actually played at least average, if not like above average. So I am curious if he can play to that level. That's a huge upgrade as well. So if he can just be kind of close to that, like major upgrade at left and right guard.
Yeah, and Patrick has literally played every position on the interior for a significant amount of snaps. Like he was a center, he was a full-time center for a while. He's played both guard positions. Like this guy is your do-it-all interior offensive lineman, and he's 31, right? I think this
31,
is
which season. Is that's like right where a lineman hits their peak and then falls off. But if he can hold on for another year, that's a good find for pretty cheap too.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think they should still be looking. We were talking about potentially some free agent additions. I know that A guy like Brandon Sheriff is constantly in this conversation. But I almost feel like their right guard spot will likely be forward, and then they just end up letting Jalen Rivers maybe compete for it. And then if he probably won't win it, and then they'll just end up leaning on forward. If it goes south, they'll figure it out. But at left guard, I think that's where Dalton Reisner, he might be on the table because Sheriff's just been a right guard his entire life. So that's just not going to change. Whereas Reisner, on the other hand, he's played both sides. I think last year he played right, but he's been a left guard for most of his career, or it's the other way around. Either or. But I think Dalton Reisner, if anybody, should be who they should be targeting.
Yeah. And he's not going back to Minnesota. And like on his own live stream, he says like he only talked about the Bengals and the Vikings. Like those were like the only teams he had any interest in. So if we can get him for pretty dirt cheap, let one of our shitty guards go. I actually don't even care. Let Cordell Volson go for that money. Bring in Reisner if he's still pretty cheap, and that's A+. A+ to me.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think Volson will he even make the starting 53?
He probably will because he's still cheap, and he would be considered a decent depth option. But yeah, I just can't have him starting. That's the problem. He started for 2 years, and he's terrible at it.
Yeah. Well, there was also another fascinating name that we kind of talked about in the pre-draft process a little bit that suffered a big injury, kind of really killed his draft stock, but the Bengals ended up picking him up, and that was Ohio State center Seth McLaughlin. I want to get your thoughts on this because, unfortunately, I feel like Lucas Patrick's experience at center really kills maybe any chance of him squeaking in, but I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, it's hard, too, because I love Matt Lee, who they had in the 7th round last year, and the dude killed it. Like, he was our Dan Skipper. If we needed another lineman, he would come on, and he played really, really well. So I don't want to let him go, but McLaughlin's entire thing is that he's a really good blocker. The only cons about his play were when he fumbled the snap in the Alabama-Michigan game, and Jalen Milroe just, like, dove forward and
that was so bad.
That was terrible. But his, like, every pure blocking number from McLaughlin at Ohio State was pure, like first-round level blocking grades. He just couldn't, like the really unfortunate injury and the lack of athleticism already kind of kept him from being a high-end prospect. But he definitely played like one down the stretch towards the beginning at Ohio State. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if he even can compete for guard because his whole thing is how he's a good blocker and he has good size. So I definitely wouldn't be shocked if that happened.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. Does he have any guard experience? I guess maybe
not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
But like people like I'm pretty sure like Cesar Ruiz, people like that can play center for a long time. And then if they have the build and the ability, they can move to guard. It's more seamless to me than moving from tackle to guard. It's a little easier in my opinion. So having someone like that, he has like the big barrel-chested frame to move in and actually play guard. So I think they have like 6 options on the table. It just can't be Volson.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for finally cutting Kappa. Jesus Christ. I hate Alex Kappa.
That took way too long.
He was so solid before he got hurt, but after this injury, he was so bad. So bad. God damn it,
bro. Where is he? Vegas now? Is that where he ended up?
Yes, he signed with them like in a day, like less than a day after being cut. They're like, okay, hell yeah, and then he gets signed for like way too much money.
It's not the spy tech connection, I assume, coming from
I don't know
Tampa.
He was decent in Tampa, and he was decent when he came to us, but was just bad after like a year or two.
Yeah. I feel like we haven't talked about Fairchild enough, though. I do want to get into him a little bit more. Do you think he has a real shot to taking that starting guard position right off the bat, or is it probably like Lucas Patrick that might take over if it's not Volson?
They do have like a weird thing. They love veterans. They always want veterans to play, but if Fairchild kind of acts and looks like a veteran, like he looks like a 40-year-old man. So like I wouldn't be shocked if they run him because they do have a new offensive line coach who does have a huge say into who starts there.
Yeah.
And it does appear that he has a deep love for Fairchild. So I do predictively think Fairchild is the starting left guard week 1.
So your starting 5 then is Mims, Fairchild, right? Am I going right to left? Yeah, Mims, Fairchild. who the hell is in the middle? Karras, right?
Yeah,
And
Karras at
then
center. And then
left or
probably
right forward, and then Brown.
Yeah.
I mixed that
Orlando
up,
Brown.
but
Yes.
those 5. Those 5.
That predictably would be my starting 5, yeah. And then I do think that right guard gets moved around. I don't see Cody Ford starting for 17 games. I'm sure Jalen Rivers or even Matt Lee, if they somehow want to try that out, that would be fun. Really anybody. Like I think they'll be desperate at some point.
They probably will.
But it will be so much better than last year because that was the worst guard duo in the history of football. Like it doesn't get worse than that.
No.
Like everyone's complaining about Fairchild not being like an elite prospect. Even if he's only average, that is a stark upgrade. Like that is perfect. That's all we've ever needed was an average O-line. we get a Super Bowl. Legitimately.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, that's just another reason why Burrow is just a maniac. Like literally dealing with the literal pressure in his face and the psychological pressure of the offense he has to carry. Pressure was everything he had to deal with was pressure. That was Joe Burrow's life.
Our best linemen in the Super Bowl was Jonah Williams and Trey Hopkins. No one even knows who they are. People know Jonah. They don't know who Trey Hopkins is.
I don't.
He's terrible. He was our best player on the offensive line. He got destroyed by Aaron Donald all game long.
He got destroyed that entire postseason run.
Yep, they all did. Jeffrey Simmons had like 6 sacks, it felt like.
And they fucking won that game. I was ready to crash out after they won that game. Like, they cannot keep getting away with this.
He's Alex Smith all over again. Yeah.
Just could not believe they kept winning football games. I remember when fucking was Tannehill threw that goddamn pick, and I literally threw my phone.
That was an Eli Apple masterclass right there. Eli Apple making plays. Eli Apple made multiple plays in that playoff series, actually, that like were like extremely influential.
Yeah, that's when he gained all that confidence to start talking like a fucking asshole.
He did that forever. He did that to Tariq Cohen.
That's like, true too.
Like 5 years earlier when he was still terrible.
No, I remember that. Yeah, wasn't he like walking around?
He was calling him short, then he like tore his ACL. Yeah.
Him and was it? Who was the guy that like punched the shit out of that Saints receiver? They like walked up behind him.
Oh my God. He was a receiver. He played at Georgia. Oh my God.
Was it
is it Winfrey? Something like that?
No, I'm talking about the defensive back that did it. I don't know what the fucking receiver was. Who knows who the receiver was? Was it Chauncey?
I was thinking of the receiver.
Chauncey something.
It might have been CJ Gardner-Johnson. Is that who it was?
That's his first name, is it? Yeah, CJ Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, yeah.
Was that who it was?
It was Chauncey. I know it was a Chauncey. I'm pretty positive.
It's probably Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
That's how. What his full name is?
Who was the receiver?
How do you get the receiver?
I'm gonna remember this. I'm looking it up.
Winfrey. I think it was number 83. Whoever the receiver was number 83.
Oh, it was Javon Wims. Yes.
Was he 83? No,
Javon Wims punched CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, that's shocking. It wasn't Gardner-Johnson throwing the punch. Holy shit.
No, but it was 83. Yes.
I'll never forget that. He just stood there and he's like, what the fuck? Oh, that was great. That guy probably deserved it, to be honest.
Yeah.
What's left? Tight end for the offense?
Tight end. Not a whole bunch.
No. I do think it sucks. I mean, we've talked about it before. I'm such a big fan of Eric All and him going down and now being hurt for all of 2025. I mean, he was on track to be probably their best tight end. If his trajectory continued the way it was going, like losing him really sucked. Like, him and Sample probably were like the best 12 personnel they were going to roll, best 2 tight ends out of 12 they were going to roll out there, and losing him, and now it's like Gesicki, and then anytime they're in 12, like maybe Gesicki's out there, but you'll probably be seeing Sample.
He's an awesome player in the slot, but he has to stay in the slot. That's all he can do. It'll be Sample. Tanner McLaughlin's a really interesting name to me because they got him late last year, and I had a really high grade on him out of Arizona, but for some reason he just didn't really play. I think that he was recovering from an injury, and he kind of just redshirted the year. But I'm super interested to see if he plays because he's definitely the most dynamic athlete in that room. So if they can get another kind of field stretcher tight end that can win after the catch, that's like a whole nother element to this room that only Eric All had. So that would be a big deal if he can finally play this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the last place on offense they could really use some help. Like, they need just another dimension there, like someone that's not Mike Gesicki, but can also raise the floor of a receiver like Mike Gesicki,
right?
But is also just not incapable of fucking inline blocking. So they just need they need someone that can do both, like anybody. But they don't really have that.
That was all, but it
was
shredded his knee. Yeah,
poor guy. Defense. This is where a lot of things happen now.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you even want to start? Where do you?
I think I just go D tackle. Like, you kind of work your way inside the depth chart. And D tackle, I mean, aside from maybe safety, was like the least active, but I thought it would be really active. Only really big move, they lost Sheldon Rankins, who apparently had cholera or something last year because he got sick in like week 3 and never played again. No idea where he had the bubonic plague. No idea what happened to Sheldon Rankins. But he like went on the Oregon Trail and got sick and never came back. So bringing in any name in TJ Slayton is perfect. Like, we just needed a body. Let Chris Jenkins develop. Bring back BJ Hill. And I think we improved because TJ Slayton can defend the run. Well, he can do, but he does it really well. So, like, Sheldon Rankins didn't do anything last year, so it has to be an improvement just off of that alone.
Yeah, I mean, when I was scrolling through, because I got as deep into Bengals Twitter as I could, and there was a lot of TJ Slayton love. Like, this is one of the most underrated moves of the offseason, great signing, this, that. And I want to say from an outside perspective, this could go down as an underrated signing. But from what it seemed like, I think the expectations for TJ Slayton from some people in the jungle are maybe a bit ambitious. Like, Slayton wasn't great last year. I do think the success of the interior defensive line does kind of lean on how well he will be able to stop the run. Like, if it's not TJ Slayton, then they're probably in trouble.
Yeah.
And I don't know how confident I am in leaning on that. Like, I am just worried about, because that's been the shtick with this defense, is being able to stop the run and how they're going to be able, how well they're going to be able to do that. So I like the signing. I just think maybe some people inside I'm going to keep saying the jungle. I think the expectations are slightly too high, but from the outside, I would have seen the signing and been like, cool. But understanding that the fit was perfect, it was a good signing overall.
I think what a lot of people also don't think about is last year, corner and defensive tackle were decimated with injuries, especially in the beginning of the year for D tackles. I remember BJ Hill was out, Rankins was out, Chris Jenkins was out. And there was a point where, like, we were rotating McKinley Jackson, Jay Tuffale, and we brought in, Jesus Christ, Lawrence Guy was a starting defensive tackle for us for a while. Like, Zach Carter started multiple games because everybody was hurt. And of course we get decimated. Like they're off. Zach Carter is horrific. So to get BJ Hill back, hopefully healthy for a year, Chris Jenkins fully healthy, and then bring in TJ Slayton, that's a better room. And Chris Jenkins is like a developmental player that could be pretty good. The only thing weird about it is, like, no one knows how to graph run defense correctly because PFF says he's a horrible run defender. Just looking at their grades, but he also led all defensive tackles in the NFL in run stop win rate. So I don't know who to believe. Because one is saying he's like literally like the most dominant run defender in the NFL. Then one is saying that he's a trash can and can't defend the run at all. But going off of what Packers fans said as well, they do miss him and they do think that he was a good run defender. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's better than what they had last year. So at least it's something. So
I hate Rankins. I hate him.
Well, the outside is also a very, I mean, this is where all the conversation has been. All of the offseason for Cincinnati is what's going on with the edge rushers, and that's not just with Trey Hendrickson and all of his noise, but even their other newly acquired starting edge rushers sitting out of practice just like Trey is. So
what
a time.
they have some thing in their contract where they don't protect rookies from injury.
Mm-hmm.
So if he gets hurt, he's like legitimately is just done. Like
I also read
stupid.
that
They're the only team that does that.
I also read that he's looking to get paid what Dallas Turner got, like the exact same structure that Dallas Turner got at 17th overall last year. That's what Shamar wants, and they're not giving it to him. So
That's
he's
fair.
pissed
Like it's a year later, and this guy just went before me, got paid.
Also did nothing last year.
He literally did nothing, Dallas Turner. Yeah, he's just like, please, like, can I just get the same that guy got? And they're like, no.
I know.
And they're like, they're being stingy off of just the guarantees and like the upfront money. Like,
mm-hmm.
They're just being they're always so weird with it. I don't understand why.
This is what they do. This is how the Bengals operate.
I know.
It's like you just got to accept it once you get there. You're like, all right,
I know.
well, this is bound.
If I want Joe Burrow to like me, I have to just like do it.
Well, yeah. I mean, other than that, there's not really too much to talk about.
Only player that is coming back that is pretty underrated is Cam Sample. He was missed a lot too because he does play a lot of interior, bounces out to the edge. He's a pass rusher from the inside and he's a run defender from the outside. And he just shredded his Achilles last year before the season even started. So they never even got to use him. And the only other note I had was people don't understand how horrific Sam Hubbard was. Like he was a barely mediocre run defender and was the single actual statistically worst pass rusher in the National Football League. And he played like every snap because Lou Anarumo just has a hard on for Sam Hubbard. I don't get it. It's so weird.
I'll never forget like the moment they fired him, and I did ask myself like, what the fuck? Like, why did they do that? But the more and more I've learned from you and just my own research about the mismanagement of the roster, like it was it was bad. Like it was there were grounds for firing. Like
yes, he hated Jordan Battle. Jordan Battle would come in, play really well, and he's like, I hate that. Bring on like 50-year-old Von Bell who would just get torched, and they'd have to bring Battle back in.
I hate Von. Talking about it, I just hate Von Bell.
3 years.
Well, I feel like we have to pay some mind to the big names in this positional group. So I have to ask, do you think Trey Hendrickson will be a Bengal in 2025?
Probably. This happens so often, and so rarely does the player actually move on at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bengals can fold and get him what he wants. They're just very scared of it because the exact same thing happened but a good bit of years ago with Dunlap and Geno Atkins, where they were dominant. Geno Atkins was playing at like a Hall of Fame level for a few years, and they extended him into his mid-30s, and he fell off a cliff. Same with Dunlap. So like they're probably like, Jesus, like we have an elite player now, but we just had two of them do the exact same thing that we just paid, and they fell off at this age, and we can't do that anymore. So I do see where their reservation comes from because it's happened to them twice in the last 10 years, but they just don't have a good backup plan, and that's the big problem.
Yeah, it's kind of like the situation teams get into with their quarterback, like with the Dolphins, for example. It's like, should we have paid Tua or not? And the argument for paying Tua is, well, if you don't pay him, then who the fuck is throwing the ball? So, and it's kind of
better quarterback.
Well, yeah, in that case.
Yeah.
All right. You are too much of a Zach Wilson.
I love that little Mormon.
Well, yeah, like with the Bengals, it's like who else is rushing the passer then if it's not Trey Hendrickson? It's like the same line of thought. But if he does get traded, who would you predict pulls the trigger on him? Because there were rumors that Chicago recently had sent an offer over to Cincinnati, which I think got rejected, like a late second.
Yeah.
No, I think it was a second and a late rounder.
I don't know if that was Chicago because they'll throw anything at you. Mm-hmm. Like Ryan Poles to get his guy will give you like the literal like naming rights to his children. Like his child will be named Chalupa Batman by the end of this year because we are renaming Ryan Poles' child in favor of Trey Hendrickson. But like everyone else is just lowballing. Here's a 4th rounder for the guy that led the NFL in sacks last year. Like we need more, and the draft already happened. So like we would just be conceding our pass rush for the next year. We can't do that.
Mhm.
I like Joseph Osai. I think that he's always been a developmental guy, and he's now hitting the age where you start to see that. Similar to like Odafe Owe in Baltimore, very similar archetype. So I do think that we have some players that can play, but Hendrickson needs to stay. But he also has to stop being a little baby and understand that he's also like in his 30s, and they're offering him good money. They offered him a contract that he signed and agreed to, and now he's like, I don't want it anymore. I want more. Like, you signed to it already.
Yeah, he was making quite a stink in the media the other day. Like
Yeah,
he was like, they ghosted me, pretty much is what he was saying. That was the crux of his interview. It's like, yeah, it's gotten personal. They just stopped answering me. It's like,
yeah, because they offer you and you're like, no, I don't want it. And they're like, okay, fine, we're done. We have other things to attend to, but
yeah, the situation is definitely. I don't think he gets traded, but it definitely does. It feels like one of those things where we won't hear anything about it now for like a couple weeks, and then
right.
like at like 2:17 on a random Wednesday, oh, Trey Hendrickson signs an extension.
Yeah.
It's like out of nowhere. It'll just
Yeah,
be
I'm
reported.
sure like at least once a day for the next 10 weeks, JPA football is going to put out, this Trey Hendrickson might be traded. He might go to the Commanders. He might go to the Cardinals.
Mm.
He might go to the Phoenix Suns. Like, they're just throwing out names. They have no idea, and that's always wrong. But I don't know. I think he stays. They just this never happens where someone throws a fit for this long and they just end up getting traded.
Mm.
Especially Mike Brown's stubborn old ass. So unless he dies soon, which he might, if I have any say in it, it'll be Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I agree. I think if there was one team that, well, I think there are two teams that probably are getting to the point where they need to do it, and that would be the Packers. Like,
Yeah.
they still have no one rushing the passer over there, and they're reaching a point where they have their quarterback, they have their franchise guy that's been playing for a couple of years at a high level. It feels like they're a team that's been knocking on the door but can't quite get over the hump, at least to compete for the NFC Championship, let alone get there.
Right.
Maybe they could be in that conversation. I mean, and the Lions too.
Yeah.
Like, Aiden Hutchinson, relying on Aiden Hutchinson, who had his leg snapped in half, to come back and be all of your pass rush again is slightly scary.
He doesn't look good, man.
Yeah, I remember.
He does not look good.
Like, I remember seeing that video of him running, and that guy's leg is not right still.
For the foreseeable future, yeah, he's running like he's on stilts.
Yeah,
it's not good. I mean, not to say he won't be productive and still be their best pass rusher by far, but yeah, unless they can bring back like week 15 James Houston from a few years ago, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not. And it's like they're a team too that we talked about Super Bowl windows in last episode. Like, it feels like the best chance that they had kind of came and went these last couple of years. And I don't think they've gotten better. They're just getting worse. And the conference is getting better. Like, the days of the Lions might be coming to an end, at least as far as competing for an actual Super Bowl. But I also wanted to talk about Shamar Stewart, so I don't ramble too much about the edge rushers. Yeah. Seth Walder, ESPN's top analytical, he does like the advanced analytics and everything. He has a sack model that he's been using to project the next 3 years for every rookie. He's been doing this for a few seasons now. Shamar Stewart's 3-year projection for sacks came in at 9.12 sacks for not every year, just in total.
Yeah.
Over under 9.5 Shamar Stewart sacks in the first 3 years.
I'll take the over on that. If Sam Hubbard can collect 3 a year, Shamar Stewart can collect 3 a year, especially if Trey stays. Trey will, Joseph Osai had like 5 last year, and Joseph Osai was not a more advanced rusher than Shamar Stewart was coming in. Like, not at all. He was also extremely raw and was just relying on pure athleticism. And he can at least get like 5 sacks in a year. So I feel like that's just being like not really playing enough into like who the Bengals are as a team, and just kind of just relying more on like your model.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with that. I think when I first saw the number, I'm like 9.5 is pretty low. I saw the rest of the list. I came in 7th on the list, actually. That included interior defensive linemen. But they only had Abdul at 15.5 too. And the reasoning was like over the course of history with this model is like, granted, they are taking a mass amount of players and throwing them into this, but more often than not, like the under with these metrics do end up hitting because
Right.
for all sorts of circumstances. So it might sound low, but at least according to his model, it happens more often than you'd think.
Sure it does, because guys like Dallas Turner exist, like guys that are kind of drafted and that just
Mhm.
never, like no one predicted Andrew Van Ginkel to be like an extremely productive pass rusher. Like sometimes shit happens, and
Mhm.
Dallas Turner might only have like 4 sacks, 5 sacks by the end of his 3 years. So
Mhm.
it does happen. Like it does happen to people like that, but I don't think there's a ton of like really issue for Shamar Stewart to find the football field. He'll start pretty quick. And I
Yeah.
think anybody that starts and has, any athletic juice can walk their way into a few sacks, especially playing with Trey and in
Mhm.
this new pass rushing scheme.
Yeah, that's true. It's like it just being on the field, you'll stumble into one. And
Yes, all the
that
time.
that's not to say and sacks, of course, they're a controversial stat to an extent. And it's like just because even if he didn't hypothetically get to 10 sacks over the course of 3 seasons, that's not to say he couldn't be a very important contributor to the Bengals still, like
Right.
especially run support, which is where they really need help. As long as Trey Hendrickson is still there and Jamar Stewart is contributing, defending the run, like that's exactly kind of what they need on the opposite side. Somebody that can, help Trey finish up, but also help set the floor for run defending. So that is there's a lot more to it than that. I just found that model pretty interesting. Like nine and a
Yeah,
half, like that,
it
that's
is.
really low. But there's a lot that goes into it. So you're right. The linebackers. This was probably the most fun I had doing this
This is
entire
this is
entire list.
the most I'm excited about, especially after watching what happened last year. God, it was awful. So last year it was like Logan Wilson far and away was like our second best defender. He was great in every way. And then Jermaine Pratt was poop. Logan Wilson gets hurt halfway through the year. So it's just Jermaine Pratt and company. Jermaine Pratt, Akeem Davis Gaither, who was also not great either. And that was really it. They let Shaka Hayward play for like 10 minutes, and he was the best player I've ever seen. And then they just like, okay, bye. They never gave Shaka Hayward a chance. But wait, hold on. Like,
Mm.
I'm pretty sure PFF has him as like the best linebacker in the NFL because like he was so dominant during his like like one game that he started
Mm.
that they're like, fuck, like, all right, like this guy's actually the best player I've ever seen. But yeah, they lost Akeem Davis Gaither, who was like a rotational 30 tackles a year kind of guy, and Joe Bachie, who it was just a team's player, nothing else. They brought in Oren Burks, who Oren Burks is pretty similar to Akeem in a lot of ways, but he was one of the Eagles' best defenders in the playoffs, like time and time again. So there is an upside there. And then the draft picks of Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter, two opposite linebackers, both I think fit the scheme really well next to Logan Wilson. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, the ceiling, like they swung for the fences with these guys. Like
Good.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of potential with. I mean, their whole class kind of felt like, every player they took out of. Granted, this was a draft that we talked about having like being a high floor type of draft. It felt like a lot of the players they went were the higher ceiling type of players more than the higher floors, and the linebackers are no exception. I mean,
Yeah.
Barrett Carter is a fucking bullet.
Mm.
Like that guy is. You might have some time. He might whip on a tackle or two, but he'll come downhill flying. Like
Yeah. Like if your running back steps up and pass pro, he's getting hurdled.
yes,
Barrett Carter will hurdle him multiple times in the same game. Because that's the most embarrassing thing. Like
I
going for pass
know.
pro and there's a dude's nuts on your head. Like as you're trying to block, your head's down. You're like, oh, like, that's so bad.
It's just kind of crazy to see like that kind of highlight from a player that had an RAS score of like 6.7 or
Yeah.
something like that. It's
I
just
think part of that's he's just not that big either.
yeah.
And RAS loves your size. It's a weird model.
Mhm.
And if you're lacking like a vertical jump or like you got one bad jump on your 40, your RAS score goes like down by like 10 points. So it
Yeah.
is uncomfortable to like try and use that, but it is weird because he definitely seems like one of the better athletes in the class.
Mhm. I was reading that I'm sure you're familiar with Joe Goodberry.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't seem too much of a fan of Demetrius Knight, but he loved the Barrett Carter selection. And he was even suggesting that he thinks Barrett Carter will be, or at least there's a stronger chance that he might be better than Demetrius Knight over the course of their careers. Is that more so maybe him being pessimistic on Knight, or do you think Barrett is just that good of a fit?
Goodberry is one of those guys that like also will make a model, and it can be successful.
He's a model guy.
But if you disagree with his model, like he doesn't like you very much.
Yeah.
Like I don't necessarily like when people do that. Like I feel like you really, really need to take into account like their style of play, how it translates to your new scheme that you have yet to watch. So how do you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like he's very confident in his stuff. So when he was probably low on Knight in his pre-draft process, he took the age into account a lot and was pretty pissed about it.
Mm-hmm.
And Barrett Carter's a little younger, a little more athletic, but I don't know. It seems like even mentally, like they love what they have in Demetrius Knight.
Oh yeah.
But like I appreciate guys like Goodberry. Like he puts a lot of effort into his stuff, but yeah, he's a very biased to his guys kind of commentator.
Yeah, no, there are a few guys like that in the Buffalo circles too. The funny part that I came across while going through some of his content just throughout Bengals Twitter was they, of course, double dip at linebacker. Everyone's like, oh my God, what are they doing? And everyone starts asking him, oh, does that mean they're going to transition to a 3-4? And he's like, no, that means there are only 2 linebackers on the field. And they're like, no, that's a 3-4. That would mean 4 linebackers. He's like, no, that's not what that means. And he was like crashing out. Like he had like a like 2 or 3 day like worth of tweets where he's just like losing his shit in replies, trying to tell people that 3-4 doesn't just mean 4 linebackers on the field. Like there's actually
it's probably 2 edge rushers.
Yes,
that like are called linebackers, like T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith
yes.
with Patrick Queen and Landon Roberts. It's not like
he was losing his shit trying to explain this to people, and it was hysterical. But I guess it is misleading. Like,
you say 4 like 3-4 linebackers, and you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
but
no. But yeah, that gave me a good laugh earlier. He's like losing his mind. But yeah, no, 4-3. Granted, a base defense in today's NFL doesn't mean that much because there's just personnel packages changed constantly.
Especially with Al Golden. Like that guy moves around and he's a linebackers coach at heart. So I guarantee that like we're not just gonna have the same 2 linebackers. Because I had to watch Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson be the only 2 players that ever played linebacker for the Bengals all game long. Yeah. There was no moving them around. There was no blitzing from them. They just did the same shit over and over again. Just drop it at the same zone.
Yeah.
Gotta hate Lou Anarumo sometimes. He's good when he's on, but I hate him when he's off.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. He was the Mahomes buster for a short time.
He was, and that's what got him paid. Like, he also helped corral Josh Allen to a pretty well degree. True. But aside from that, I also watched Mike White beat his ass, like bad. Jacoby Brissett beat his ass every time because they're just smarter.
Yeah.
I hate him.
Yeah, a lot of, but I don't know. I feel like I saw some Bengals fans too in some of the replies of these draft picks. Like, I need Al Golden in handcuffs. Like, what are we doing? Like, people are not happy with like the linebacker love. It felt like I don't know if you felt that vibe.
Teams have good linebackers. Like, yeah, it's kind of a thing. Like the Ravens defense has been carried by Roquan Smith.
Yeah,
for the last few years. Like, it does definitely matter.
That might have been Joe Barry influence slightly.
Definitely, probably was. People love him.
Yeah. But yeah, the linebacker room, it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be. I'm excited to see what it could be because
they got
Barrett
athletes.
And Knight, yes,
yeah, they got athletes finally. God damn it,
which they never really have.
No, Jermaine Pratt's fat. Logan Wilson's just big. Like,
they really don't. Do the Bengals ever have an athlete on defense? Like,
no. Well, they
other
do.
Than Hendrickson,
they do at corner, and that's the only one.
Yeah.
That I'm actually really excited to get into too, because there's 2 guys coming back that I am so stoked for.
Yeah, Dax Hill is going to be like, he's the chess piece that Lou Anarumo didn't play chess with.
He slammed that shit on the ground and it broke into a million little pieces. Like he didn't know what to do with Dax Hill. Like he thought he did. Like he felt like Anya Taylor-Joy in like as an actual like a chess player. Like he thought that was him, but no. He was the stupid kid that played the kid in Harry Potter, the fat kid in Harry Potter that got skinny. He was that one. He's that kind of chess player. Like it was bad, but Jesus Christ. And then DJ Turner also got hurt late, but it was like collarbone, which is not really a thing that like lingers into next year. So Dax Hill, I am worried about because it was a knee injury, but it was in week 5. So he's had a lot of time to come back from this. So hopefully he's okay. Moving on from Mike Hilton, it appears has already been done. They've already handed out number 21. So it appears he's gone. He's a fan favorite, everybody's favorite defender, elite run defender, elite blitzer, but like start praying if he has to drop past like 5 yards because it's not going to be pretty. So I do agree with the decision to move on and find somebody that's an asset in coverage, which I think they do have in Dax Hill, DJ Turner, and Cam Taylor-Britt.
Yeah, I mean, Dax Hill, when he was healthy, played some good outside corner. So I was kind of puzzled when at first looking at it, like people were saying, that might be the next slot corner. I'm like, you'd be insane to throw Dax Hill inside to the slot. He played very well outside. It's like, this is maybe your one chance to have a true outside number one corner. Why the fuck would you put him in the slot? I'm like,
if anything, it's like DJ Turner is built a little bit more for it. Like he's more compact. He's a better tackler, lower to the ground, faster. Like let DJ Turner, play his scrappy brand.
Yes.
Josh Newton was pretty decent last year. He's pretty physical too. That's who people think will play nickel is Josh Newton, which I don't agree with. It should probably definitely be DJ Turner, but whatever happens. It's better than what we had last year.
I think it'll end up probably being kind of a rotation of what they need in a certain situation. Like they probably won't rely on their nickel the same way they did last year or in years past. Like Mike Hilton was a staple, and now I don't think they're going to do that. Like you go and draft 2 linebackers in the past year, you're going to be playing with 3 on the field to help in run support a lot more than you are going to be having a nickel out there. So it's probably Al Golden's thinking. So he doesn't even bother. They didn't even really bother. That was probably one of their biggest needs, assuming that they were going to lean on it again. But I think the draft goes to show like they're just going to be rolling out 3 linebackers instead of having that nickel back out there. So
cool.
Yeah,
that's cool with me.
I'm fine with that.
Change it up, please.
So
safeties literally like I wrote down upgrade or not upgrade for pretty much everyone, but losing Von Bell does not make the team any worse because he was trash. I do really like Jordan Battle. He is a fun player who has, like pretty much every tool you would need. Geno Stone, a series of up and downs, was the worst safety in the NFL for the first half, and that actually became very playable towards the end. So I do think with Al Golden's scheme, how he uses safeties, they're less involved in the run game, and it's more how we see guys like Xavier Watts from Notre Dame, another Al Golden developmental player. I can definitely see a role like that where he's just a ball hawk only, and that's cool. That's what he's good at. He's definitely not a guy that should be playing in the box like Lou Anarumo had him doing half the time. Just because he's a little chubby does not mean he's a box safety. For the love of God.
Yeah, I only put declined, like improved or declined. I only put declined here for the safeties because after Stone and Battle, I don't like their depth is scary. Like God forbid, there's nothing. So I think out of every possibility in free agency, we talk about the guards. Like I think this is where there will have to be some sort of addition, and like Justin Simmons is the name that of course is best player available in this context. But it just feels like they have to. Like they don't have depth. That's a problem. It's a very big problem.
I think Tyson Anderson has some fun upside, but like he's maybe played 10 snaps at safety ever. Like they have some guys that have upside. I think they do like the guy from Ole Miss last year, Dejon Anthony. kind of like a nickel safety, but I mean, he didn't really do enough last year to really prove he's worthy of that. So I don't know what their plan is. I've heard a lot of Justin Simmons. I've heard a lot of Julian Blackman, who is a very talented player, and I'm shocked he's still out there. So those two would be perfectly fine as rotational safeties for us, and that would make it a huge upgrade over Von Bell.
Yes, I mean just anybody. It's just the fact that they went from it's like, you know, pick your poison. Do you want Von Bell and have 3 safeties with some depth, or do you want no Von Bell but no depth? Like,
right. I would rather take my chance on the quarterback throwing an incompletion than I would having Von Bell, because Von Bell's more likely just to bat the ball into the guy's hands. I don't know how he was so bad last year. Like, he was decent when he had Jesse Bates next to him, but when he actually has to like be the guy, he crumbled. And I mean, I know he's also like old, and he's always been a little thicker for his play style, so that does play into it.
Yeah,
they had him less in the box than Geno Stone was.
I know.
Yeah, they had him playing all the way down the field, like play like split in the half. Like stop, like please. Like, well, it's so bad.
I just can't believe they haven't addressed it yet. I mean, I thought safety would be in play in the first 2 rounds for the Bengals for sure.
I thought Xavier yeah.
That was a big thing for me looking at the pre-draft process for them, and they walk out with no defensive back out period, which God bless them. But they have to address it. I think.
I think there's plenty of options available too. Like, they're not done quite yet.
True. That is true. Well, some questions to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to look at their over-under win total. Right now it's at 9.5, right? It feels oddly low for a team that has what should be a presumably high ceiling. I mean, they hit, was it 9 wins last year and they missed the playoffs? Was that, or was it 8? I don't remember.
I think they had 9.
Yeah, they hit 9 last year and missed the playoffs. And that was with how devastatingly terrible their defense was.
Right.
You have to imagine they get over that mark, but those lines are always pretty spot on. So what would be your bet being a Bengals fan?
I would say 10 to 11. I mean, that's just who they've been the last few years. Their defense hasn't just started being bad. Their defense has been bad for the last few years, and they've still been able to pull off 11-win seasons with a bad defense. It was just unreasonably bad last year due to injury and mismanagement of talent. But I feel like they've upgraded at multiple positions. The offensive line is upgraded. I think their coaches have upgraded severely. So I am really curious why people think that they're not any better. I feel like barring any injury and barring Evan McPherson stop being the worst kicker in the NFL, like, it's a good team. And they lost multiple games due to Evan McPherson not being who he was anymore. And that might be due to the long snapping. It might be due to the holds, but they did bring in a new long snapper as well.
I saw that.
To possibly compete, which would be interesting.
That's a big development, because hasn't the long snapper been around for like years?
No, they had Clark Harris for probably since I was born.
Yeah, that's who I'm thinking of.
And then he tore both biceps in a game. They brought in Cal Adamitis, who's just been, it's been downhill since he's came in. So you kind of have to look at it and be like, okay, well, like, I don't watch long snapping tape very often, but what's the common denominator here? Like, they bring in a new long snapper and the kicker gets much worse. Evan McPherson was the most automatic kicker in the NFL during that playoff stretch that they had. He couldn't miss from 60 in. Then all of a sudden now he's losing his games because he can't make 30-yarders anymore. I feel like that can be fixed pretty easily with some good snaps.
Yeah, I mean, I had the Bengals over this mark last year. I feel like I have no reason not to put them over this mark again. It's like one of those things where they got to bounce back. They're too good of a team. They have too much star power to just be mid again. Like, it's just the way that what's the phrase I want to use? It's just like the laws of variance. Like, it just works like that.
Yeah, like they've had so many guys that have been waiting to develop on defense, like Miles Murphy, Joseph Osai, Dax Hill, DJ Turner, a bunch of names that have just been on the brink of breaking out and just haven't quite done it yet. Literally, if 2 of those guys do, and a couple of their new additions play well, that's another game that they win. And then if their special teams can get back to form, another win. If Joe Burrow can take another step, another win. Like, it would have to be catastrophic for the team to get worse this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
So I don't see how they're just going to be worse.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's that simple. Like, you don't have to get into all of this extra shit. It's like the Bengals lost 3 or 4 games due to a kicker. Like,
right.
if the kicker makes the kick, they win those games as a 9-win team. So you can, in theory, common sense would suggest they probably win 10 or 11 games this year, given they really didn't lose any pieces that are going to hurt them. So,
and their schedule was harder last year because they were playing like the playoff schedule, and like right now they are not doing that. So I'm not too worried about it.
What about some possible breakout candidates? Who'd you have here?
We've touched on a lot of guys. I think that Joseph Osai is one that really, really fits Al Golden's. They call it like his Viper position. You kind of rotate around. You don't really have one position. Your whole thing is just to attack.
Mm-hmm.
You can attack from the middle. You can attack from the edge. Anywhere that he puts you. And I think Osai does fit that really well, which is why they prioritized bringing him back. I thought he was a Falcon. Like I had it written down. I thought he was in, and they stole him. So I do think Joseph Osai is another guy that has shown a lot of life, but can definitely take the next step this year.
I like that. Yeah, I hadn't even considered the edge rushers that much because, to be frank, it's tough to get into too much about the edge rushers in Cincy when Trey Hendrickson's taking all the spotlight.
Right. You have no idea. Like, yeah, Shamar Stewart's a rookie. No one knows what's going to happen to him. Miles Murphy, you're still waiting for that too.
Yeah.
Like, that could happen. Like, the one thing that is notable is that their new defensive coordinator, Montgomery, like, he's the one that developed Rashawn Gary and Keon White. So if there's anybody that I want to develop Miles Murphy and Shamar Stewart, it's the guy that developed Keon White and Rashawn Gary.
Mm-hmm.
Guys of like the exact same mold. So I do like that is one thing that really makes me excited about our new defensive ends.
Well, yeah. Do you know his name?
Jerry Montgomery.
Jerry Montgomery. You did say that. It must have slipped out of my head. The name that I had for my possible breakout, I feel like Dax Hill kind of is a shoo-in for this. Like, I think Dax, unless the injury is really holding him back, I feel like Dax Hill's like the easy way out kind of answer for this question. But I went with Demarius Mims as my real answer. Like, he wasn't statistically speaking great, but for any rookie to step in unprompted, like, he was not supposed to just be the starting tackle. Like, he got vaulted into a position on a very bad offensive line that passed all the fucking time and was asked to be the full-time guy due to circumstances. And he held his ground. Anybody that can do that, that's mentally tough and now has won the job, like, I'm confident that he can take that next step this year. Now that he's actually comfortable, has a whole offseason to actually prepare for this job.
Right.
And he can really establish himself and kind of have a year to put himself on the map as one of the, quickly developing tackles in football. So I'm looking forward to Mims.
And doing it without broken hands too would be nice because he has had a club on his hand for like half the year. So that will be nice.
Yes. Did you have regression candidates? Did you have any here?
Nothing in particular. The only thing I could probably see is Ted Karras taking a step down soon. That's only due to age and his already lack of athleticism. I think if he succumbs to any worse athleticism issues, they have guys knocking on the door. Matt Lee, Seth McLaughlin, like you mentioned earlier, 2 good players. But I would be worried that Ted Karras just kind of slowly gets a little bit worse. And he's already been, a pretty below average run blocker. His pass pro has been saving him for a couple years in a row because it is really good. But like if that starts to fade a little bit, you might be looking at a replacement at some point. Yeah. Unfortunately, because he is like the best locker room guy on the team. But when you're a center that's probably 32 at this point. Like, let's see how old he is, but 32. So that is a little concerning. Like that's about the time you expect a regression from somebody like him.
Yeah, that's true. But like you said, they have more than enough interior guys now to.
I feel good about his replacement. Yeah, just the guards, please. Like figure that right guard spot out, and we're good.
The only player I could feel like confident that I might be able to fit here is not even someone that was on the team last year, and that was Oren Burks. Like, he's stepping into a much different environment, coming off of the best year of his career that came out of nowhere. So expectations are high. Yeah, I don't foresee this guy getting. I don't think his role is going to be too much bigger. It's of course going to be bigger in Cincinnati, but of course they drafted 2 rookies. Like there's a lot of other support in this room, so he won't be leaned on necessarily. But I think people see like, oh, Oren Burks, and then they think, oh, Oren Burks from the Eagles. That was like exceptional when he needed to be. It's like a regression can be interpreted differently, but from Philadelphia Oren Burks to Cincinnati Oren Burks, I wouldn't fully expect the
I don't
same
expect
player.
that. No, that would be a Pro Bowl level player from how he played in the playoffs. It's not quite that,
right?
But if we can get a decent player out of him, that's okay.
Yeah, definitely objective in terms of what you might feel regression could be interpreted.
Right.
So, was there any other categories or any other conversations, talking points?
I only really had underrated versus overrated guys, but I feel like we've already kind of gotten into that with all of our explanations. Like really my biggest underrated addition was probably Seth McLaughlin. Really, I was pretty excited about him. I had him as a 4th round grade. So to get anybody like that undrafted is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It just sucks that like we don't really need a center that bad. Like our center's pretty good. He's a top 10 center. So I'm just like, I don't know. Like value wise, he was probably the most underrated. I also think Jalen Rivers probably would be my other underrated guy.
That's what I was thinking. I wrote down Jalen Rivers too, just because like he will be competing for multiple jobs on this team, and I think he'll be here a while. It feels like he's a guy that he's not just a throwaway pick. Like he will be a part of this offensive line ecosystem for quite a bit, just because he can be the swing tackle. He can compete with Cody Ford, who will get shaken up at some point this season. Like who knows when he might be needed, but they're gonna need him. So I thought that was a good pick too.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really feel like there were any overrated. I mean, in the lens of some people in the jungle, I thought TJ Slayton was getting a little bit too much love, but I like I said, that's up for interpretation too.
Yeah.
So, other than that, I think that really covers everything since.
Yeah. I mean, as a Bengals fan, we had 0 bad additions, only good ones. They're like, we are absolutely going 17-0. There's no way around it. You're a hater if you disagree. You don't know ball. Podcast make podcast equipment more expensive.
Put tariffs on podcast equipment.
Please.
Yeah, we get that comment once a fucking TikTok.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter who's talking, what it's about.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure people are gonna put a bounty on my head at some point. Like I could say like something completely reasonable. I feel like
we should
our account is just getting pushed to like haters at this point. It feels
we should experiment with that. We should just be like we should just say like Sebastian Janikowski was pretty good. Nothing else. Just like a very like objectively true statement, and someone be like, "No, no, you don't know ball, you idiot."
We should test that out. Just like purposefully cut out a segment of the podcast made for like creating such an obviously correct statement, and then like acting like there's an explanation needed for it. Put it in a TikTok and push it out and see how many people disagree.
I agree.
That is a great experiment idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's everything Cincinnati. We will be doing this for as many teams as we can, and we will eventually bring in guests as well. That will be part of the agenda. But Austin here is everything Bengals.
I got us covered.
We felt like this was something we could handle ourselves. But
I agree.
If you guys enjoyed, as always, like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out all of our socials in the description down below. All of our individual socials down in the description as well. And we'll see you in episode 35.